what's going on? It's your boy Lionel, class of 2009, back with another episode of TV versus everybody. And listen, we've been out for a while, but listen, we are back with the recap show with our special guest correspondent, Coach Heist Northern. And so we're going to get the guys up on the screen. But first of all, if you have not been following us on Instagram and Twitter, listen, make sure you follow us on both platforms. And listen, hey, we got TikTok coming out too soon. So make sure you follow us on all three platforms, all right? Because we're doing some things on all of them, right? You know what I'm saying? They're specific to the platform. So make sure you follow us in all of those places. Also, if you have not done so already, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. Listen, we are almost to the goal of 1,000 subscribers. I know some of y'all day ones remember us when we start. Y'all remember when it was like 20, 25 of us in this thing, all right? We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. All right, we've been hitting our goals each step of the way. And so, hey, if you're watching the show and you watched us multiple times and you haven't subscribed to the channel, bro, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and show some love. All right, go and push us up past that 1,000 subscriber mark, because that's what we're looking to do, man. And so, hey, at this time, you already know what we got to do. We got to show some love to the home team. So you already know, man, first and foremost, we got to show love to that boy, none other than PV alumni Jeff McKissick. All right. See, he's a Texas licensed loan officer with Fairway Independent Mortgage Company. And listen, he'll help guide you seamlessly through the home buying process. And listen, I know many of y'all out there, y'all been looking for a spot of your own. All right. You've been looking for a spot of your own. You know why you want a spot of your own? Because you see what's coming, right? You see what's heading down the line. You know what them Panthers about to do. And so you like, hey man, I need to make sure I got a spot of my own. So that way I can watch, right? You know what I'm saying? I can watch what is going to come week in and week out from Panther Nation. All right. And so if you want to do that, man, you got to get with my guy, PV alumni Jeff McKissick, because he'll make sure, man, to have that loan in place. Because again, many of us are unaware of our credit score, our true financial standing, but he'll help guide you seamlessly through the home buying process and make your dream of owning a home achievable sooner than you think. All right. So don't delay. Talk with Jeff today so you can be in your home tomorrow. And listen, after you get that loan in place, you already know you got to hit your boy up. And I'm going to make sure, right? Listen, my job is to partner with you and partner with God, because just as sure as he got a mansion in heaven. And listen, John 14 say he got a mansion in heaven just for you. But just as he has a place for you in heaven, I believe that there's a special place for you and your family to reside while you're here on this earth. And so listen, we're going to partner together. We're going to find you the home of your dreams. And after we do that, hey, you already know, man, we got to hit up my man, Neil Harris. And listen, when you're thinking big about your home purchase and want a thorough assessment of your biggest investment, you owe it to yourself to contact Big. That's Blueprint Improvement Group. Big provides home inspections in the greater Houston area and is owned and operated by proud PV mechanical engineer alum Neil Harris. He has experienced inspectors who use advanced tools and techniques to assess every aspect of your property from the roof to the foundation. So visit thinkbig.com or text 713-259-0673 to book your home inspection. Support the team that supports the team. All right, listen, support the team that supports the team. And listen, after we talking about supporting the team that supports the team, listen, I also got to let y'all know, hey, listen, we got a barbecue cook-off that's coming up for the benefit of Willow Ridge High School, all right? They've been doing this annually, year in and year out, in order to raise funds, all right? And so if you think you really like that on the grill, all right, you a barbecue master, you a pit master, you got to hit up Big Z, all right? Make sure you hit up Big Z if you're trying to be a vendor and to be a part of this. Be a part of this Willow Ridge Barbecue Cook-Off fundraiser. All right, it's going to be going down on Saturday, October 4th. It's from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. right over at Quail Green West Park. So make sure, again, hit up Big Z if you're trying to be a vendor, right? Or if you say, man, listen, I just want to donate to a good cause and help the individuals, right? Help the young men, the young ladies, right, in this local community, Houston area. Then hey, hit up Big Z, right, and make sure you get yourself a vendor spot for this barbecue cook-off that's going down on October 4th, 2025. 5. And listen, with that said, y'all already know, man, what we're getting into tonight, man. It's week 4. We got the recap show, and I can't do it by myself, right? I can't do it by myself. I got to bring the brethren up. All right. Coach, Mr. Carey. Hey, man, how y'all doing? It's been 2 weeks. So give me the synopsis. How your 2 weeks been?
Oh, I was still on mute. It's been a tough 2 weeks. We've been waiting, and now we're in the meat of what we're bound to do. Come off that hill.
Coach Northern, how's your 2 weeks been? You see,
it's been going pretty good. I went to the Rice game and called that. And man, I'm gonna tell you one thing about it. I was disappointed actually because I didn't see any barbecue pits or ball pots when I went out there to the game. I told the guy, like, man, I gotta find something, a barbecue, a rib, a chicken wing, a drumstick, or something somewhere. But it was I couldn't find it on either side of the stadium. And then I was fortunate enough to go to the game this past weekend versus Northwestern State, and found a few things out there, but it was a good game, for the Panthers. And we still got to do something to get some more seats in that stadium, because to be honest, once again, 2 weeks in a row, I was disappointed in the crowd of I just say Prairie View lightly on both games. And then the other thing too that I thought was rather funny, I don't know how Rice got 22,000 people. They said it was 22,000. So look, whoever counted Rice attendance, I'm gonna let them count my bank account, because they know how to do something with them numbers very well.
Hey, listen, it's so funny because you said too that you said your son got the true PV experience too. You know what I'm saying? You want to drop that information?
Hey man, I hate to mess with him, but I have to mess with him. So during I'm doing the game in the visitors press box, radio room, and with about, I don't know how many minutes was left when Northwestern scored that last touchdown. Where the guy from Prairie View almost intercepted it. I said, hey, man, you still here? I want to see you before I go back home. He was like, man, I'm just walking back in the dorm room. He said when Prairie View went up 10, he pretty much thought the game was over. Then when I told him who scored the touchdown for Northwestern State, he was like, no, not that guy. It was like the slowest dude on the field. They have been messing up all game for North. I think he had 2 or 3 fumbles.
Yeah.
And that's who ended up scoring a doggone touchdown to make it a 3-point game. So I had to mess with him about being a true Prairie View fan, though.
Oh, man, so bad. You know what I mean? But with that said, hey, listen, all the true Fairview fans are happy right now because listen, we got a point, we got a +1 on the left side of the column. And so you only can be happy with that. But we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna get into that game. But first and foremost, just want to look at it. And obviously in the SWAC this past week, didn't have a lot of games going on, right? So not a lot of games to review and to look at. Obviously, we just mentioned that 27-24 victory of Prairie View over Northwestern. We're going to get into that real quickly. Bethune-Cookman, 35-9 winner over Edward Waters. This one was interesting because Brian Jenkins was actually named the new formal head coach, right, of Edward Waters. He had an interim tag up to that point. And it was interesting when you looked at the little video they dropped. Edward Waters dropped. He actually became Bethune-Cookman head coach obviously a few years back, and his first game was against Edward Waters, right? You know what I mean? And so I kind of like the little video they dropped. It definitely would have been great momentum if they could have got the job done, man. They would have been a real movie then, right? You know what I mean? Movie story ending. Obviously, wasn't able to get the job done, right? Bethune-Cookman handled business 7-0 at the end of the first. 14-6 at halftime, and then the big quarter, which is the third quarter, 21 points scored, right, to really put it out of reach, right, and so end up putting 35 points. And I think, look, when you look back at that game last week, that South Carolina State essentially, right, had the game. I mean, the game was over in the third quarter, right? I mean, they went up, I think, something like 41-10 or something, right? So the game was over in the third quarter, but in that fourth quarter, Bethune got rolling last week, right, and we didn't get a chance to talk about that game. But I think that helped when you look at this week of them being able to see the ball move, of being able to put the ball in the box, as Coach Jackson calls it, right? I just think it's just building momentum. So now you see them come out this game being able to put 35 points on the board. And I think it's going to be good for them, right, as they now get ready to start going into the SWAC play as well. And so Cam Ransom, 10 of 20 for 172 yards, 3 touchdowns. Of course, Malik Huggins, right, preseason SWAC wide receiver, 6 receptions, 177 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And in the other game, right, I think was obviously, just a quick one and got over quick was that Alabama A&M and Lane game. Alabama A&M, again, another team that's rolling right now. 49 points on the day to 7. Obviously, as you see, the game was well over at halftime, 28-0. They scored another 21 points in the third quarter to completely put it out of reach. And then Lane gets the last touchdown in that fourth quarter. They didn't even start. They didn't even have Q start, right? The game, not Q. Quad, right? Quad. He didn't even start the game, right? He didn't even play at all. So Hanley took the majority of the snaps, 15 to 28, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Of course, you see Nero there with 7 carries, 69 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And they kind of took a page out of Jackson State's book, right, against Tuskegee last week when they basically set down Morgan. They set down not only Quad, but a couple other starters, right, still able to get the job done against Lane. Coach, what is, when you look at these 2 games specifically, what's the mindset, I guess, from the coaching staff of why you would say, hey, I want to allow these guys to sit or to get rest versus, right, maybe allowing them to have a chance to come in and play the game and roll a little bit? Because in the case of somebody like Jacoby and Morgan, I can understand Quad Brown a little bit more than Jacoby and Morgan, because maybe it'd been good for Jacoby to play a half and see the ball get in the end zone like you saw Cam Ransom do in the game before against South Carolina State, because up to this point, Morgan hasn't thrown a touchdown, right? You know what I'm saying? Even if you look at some of the receivers that Jackson State has, I know they got a lot of guys there in that room. Well, right now, that receiving room hasn't been getting fed, right? And so even they sat down in this game. So what's your thoughts on maybe the philosophy behind that from a coaching standpoint of maybe why you would sit guys or why you would let certain guys play in games like that are going to be lopsided?
Well, you don't know if it's going to be lopsided or not, being honest with you. So part of it is it going to help this guy to, like you say, see a basket go in? You may try to do whatever you can to make sure you get him one pass and touchdown, or it may be a certain guy you want to see score. But other than that, you have to look at the health benefits. If it's any lower extremity injury, then you probably want to say, nah, I don't want you to play, especially when you're dealing with those ankles and you running your quarterback. If you're a power read or zone read team, then you don't want to put a kid in harm's way to extend the extent of the injury or recovery time as well, because everybody really about to get into the meat of the SWAC schedule. If not this week, then next week. So like I said, you don't want to put a guy in harm's way to mess himself up or mess your team up. And then, like I say, you're looking at yourself like, man, why did I do that? So that's one of the things as a coach, you have to look at what kind of start you want and then what's best for the whole team, not just that one person.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Mr. Carey, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with Coach Northern. You really don't know how it's going to turn out. It's more about matchups than the division level of the team. And sometimes those Division II teams can give you a tough game. But like he said, if you have somebody you needed to rest, then I think it's a good idea, because you start – well, I guess there's no more non-conference SWAC games left. But you have only conference games except for a couple of games here and there. So it is good to have you guys at full strength, because I understand what you're saying. It would be nice to get them some reps just to keep them, warmed up. But, the rest is a little more important to have them ready to go, like a ankle that might be a little tender, or, a little thigh bruise you might have, and you need a couple more of those ice baths. It really helps on that end. And those are the kind of games you kind of want to just get out there and make it happen. But I know BCU didn't sit anybody, so they didn't want to take any chances. So, wanted to see if we could get done.
And when you think about that one, right, you also got to think about what happened and what transpired last year, right, with Clark Atlanta coming in and beating them. So
Right.
you definitely didn't want that to happen, right? You definitely want to have a good note. And again, especially as you go into SWAC play, I think there's just something about winning games going into SWAC play. And so that takes us to the next game, right, that I want to talk about, and that's the game of Grambling against East Texas A&M, right? So that was a 31-28 victory. Obviously, last year went to overtime. Grambling got the win, and just from a conference standpoint, right, it's good to see us win games against the Southland Conference, right? And so no matter how it comes, you take those wins. And so again, first quarter scoreless. Second quarter, East Texas A&M goes into halftime up 7-14-7. Grambling turns it around and switches it around. So you go into fourth quarter tied 21-21, and then obviously Grambling scores a touchdown and gets the field goal. And East Texas A&M only with the touchdown missed the field goal at the end of the game, right, wide left, and so end up coming out with the 31-28 victory, right? Just looking at a little bit more details on the stats of this game, right? We look at East Texas A&M, Eric Rodriguez, 22 of 33, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, did have the 1 interception, right? Now, East Texas A&M only ran for 123 yards this game, right? 40 rushing attempts, but only 3.1 yard average. Did have the 2 rushing touchdowns, right? But listen, I think as a defense, you'll take that, right? Running for under 130, only 3 yards an attempt. I mean, I think you got to take that if you're coming from the side of Grambling. And then you look at what they were able to do on the ground: 28 carries, 142 yards, 5.1 yard average, and 3 touchdowns. Hey, listen, 5 yards a carry. That's two of them, and we got a first down, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll definitely take that. Of course, T-Set, 14 to 26, 179 yards, and a touchdown, right? And so he did well to help move the ball down the field for Grambling. And again, only that 1 interception as far as the turnover is concerned, and no other turnovers for either team. Penalty-wise, I know there was 6 for 47 for East Texas A&M, Grambling 5 for 40. And so not a heavily penalized game, right, for what we've seen before in the SWAC. Something interesting, though, time of possession, East Texas A&M 36 minutes to Grambling's 23. So that was definitely really interesting to see that they were able, even though they didn't run the ball as effectively, right, they were actually able to control the clock throughout this game. And so end of the day, really seemed like two teams that was really evenly matched. Looked like Grambling was able to get the last blow. Any thoughts on this game? I think was a big one for the SWAC conference overall.
Yeah, I was happy for the Tigers and the conference overall to get this non-conference win. Some of the things, like I say, how you can make the numbers look tricky a little bit. The time of possession can be deceiving because, if Grambling gets the ball and scores on their first or second play, or the driver has a big play, then that time of possession is going to go way down. But they can be productive. But if you, like I say, when I first looked at the stats, I looked at Commerce out everything them in terms of, pretty much numbers, yards, first downs, all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, you just want to be able to win the ball game because, like I say, turnovers matter, field position matters, every yard counts. So a lot of times we'll look at those numbers and they can be deceiving. But like I say, the overall thing is get the win for not only for your school, but the conference. That's 2 years in a row against those guys. So that's a feather in their hat. And Commerce is going to end up getting better eventually in that conference. So it's still, like I say, it can't be a mindset for Grambling. So like we know we can beat those guys when we play them.
Yeah. And that's what I think really helped because the first half, they were a little nervous because Commerce kind of jumped on them a little bit. And the quarterback was looking good. But like you said, they didn't run the ball as well as they wanted to. I was surprised to see the time of possession slanted toward them, but they did make more first downs than Grambling.
Yeah,
so that kind of helped them keep the ball.
And 6 of 14 on third down. Grambling was 2 of 11 on third down. So if you add that fourth down, that's 3 of 12, right? So it's still very low efficiency wise. And so, but that the turnover is huge, right? Because at the end of the day, right, you give that turnover away to Grambling, and it gives them a chance to now turn maybe a scoring drive into one that you don't score, and now they can put points up on the board. And I kind of have a little formula in my head, coach, that I go with. It ain't, this ain't Chat GBT and nothing like that. You know what I mean? But in my mind, I look at every 100 yards. I look at that as like, hey, I'm expecting like 8.5 points. That's kind of how I look at it in my mind. Then you kind of like, you move back and forth based on, well, did you turn the ball over right? Did you field goal? But my formula is, when I look at numbers and look at the games, I'm like, it kind of makes sense, so far to me, right? Because when you look at this game, East Texas A&M, 352 yards, right? In my mind, it's like, okay, you're expecting that's somewhere around 30, 31 points, right? But when you have that turnover, that means you lose that opportunity to score. Yeah. And so instead of you being able to flex and have somewhere in that 30, 31 point range, right? Well, now, you lose that opportunity to score, but you also give Grambling an opportunity maybe to have a short field, et cetera. And so now they can put up points on the board that wasn't projected, or that you didn't see necessarily. And like, man, these jokers ain't have as many yards. Like Coach Norton got me saying jokers on here, y'all. They ain't had that many yards, right? But they were able to score because of the turnover, for example, right? And so it's really interesting to see, when you look at it and think of those things. But for Grambling's perspective, right? You got the win, of course, in the first game of the season. Of course, Ohio State was Ohio State. You had the scare at Kentucky State, right? I mean, this is call it what it is, right? It was a scare. And listen, if that Joker just go ahead and run 2 more yards, that's a loss, right? But at the end of the day, if Grambling moves forward and goes through and wins the West and gets this SWAC championship, nobody gonna be thinking about that game no more. That's the thing. That's the thing about close wins, right? And so now you go from there to now beating East Texas A&M. And I don't care what you want to say. It's a Southland school. It's an FCS win. You got to be feeling good if you coach Mickey Joseph to be able to say, hey, my guys have been able to get over hump, be able to fight. Yeah, they were down. You know what I'm saying? We didn't control the clock, but we got wins. And so how do you think this Grambling team feels as they now come into the game we're going to talk about a little bit later, the State Fair Classic in Dallas?
Look, it's best to coach after a win than a loss. I'll tell you that much. Look, they listen different a little bit, and they take constructive criticism much better after a win, because you can look at the film and it's obvious a guy didn't do what he was taught or what you had been working on. If you win that ball game, he'll take that as, okay, coach coaching me up. If you lose that ball game and it's close, it's like coach don't care nothing about me. He just tearing me down. They don't care about, all they care about is wins and losses. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to care about. But the way they listen is totally different, I guarantee. And the thing about it, with Prairie View winning that game last week, there's going to be more attention that they're going to pay to everything that's been being said to them, plus the fact of losing to Prairie View a couple times in a row. That's something that don't sit well in Grambling, Louisiana. I can tell you that.
Right. Now let's get into the Prairie View game from last week. Again, only 4 SWAC games this past week. And so again, 27-24 victory against East Texas A&M. First quarter ended 7-6. Northwestern State had a bad snap on. I think, man, Kerry, we talk about it all the time. Maybe the first bad snap we've seen on special teams in a couple of years. So it's pretty good though to not have bad snaps for a while, but definitely had a bad snap. So didn't even get to kick that one. So 7-6 into the first quarter. Again at halftime, 17-10. Great 2-point conversion play. Anytime I see them in 2 tight ends, with 10 yards going in, I'm happy because I think they got some great plays, out of that 12 personnel set. Then in the third quarter, of course, the game was 17-20 PV up. And then, of course, both teams trade touchdowns in that fourth quarter. The first one, 27-17. And then the one you talk about when after your son had left, which was just a long third down play that the safety just got a late break on, and really more of a prevent style defense, right? And then the guy just beats everybody else to the house, right? So at the end of the day, though, the game 27-24 victory. Again, when you look at first downs, 19 PV, 14 for Northwestern State. Third down efficiency, Northwestern State 5 of 13 on third down, where also 1 of 1 on fourth down. Prairie View 3 of 12 on third down, 2 of 3 on fourth down. Right, so that third down efficiency is something that you definitely want to definitely get better with. Now total yardage, right? 320 yards for Northwestern State, 500 yards for Prairie View, right? And something that I said, right, really kind of reminiscent in the sense of the Texas Southern game of the first game of the season, where we also outgained Texas Southern over 100 yards, right? Almost 150 yards, right? Total offense. Yet the game was close. That game, because of penalties, right? 150 yards penalty. And then this game, right, passing 156 yards passing, 12 of 21, 148 for Prairie View, 15 of 23. Both had an interception thrown. And then also, and this was really where the game was won for Prairie View, 164 yards rushing for Northwestern State, right, on 32 attempts, 5.1 average, and 352 yards rushing on 41 attempts, 8.6 yard average. I mean, completely crazy, right? Of course, penalty-wise, 4 for 35 for Northwestern State, 4 for 50 for Prairie View. Also, both teams had a fumble loss, right? So 2 turnovers on both sides of the ball. So they even there. And then time possession, Prairie View, of course, with the time possession, 33 to 40. When we look at some of the individuals, right? Chase Bingman with the big coming out party, right? 18 carries, 180 yards, a 10-yard average, right? Of course, Lamaje McDowell, 14 carries, 104 yards, 7.4 yard average, and the 2 touchdowns. And of course, Tevin Carter was 7 for 56 on a touchdown. Of course, the big one coming to get that first score of the game, right, on that big 50-yard run, right, right down. I saw that coming. I was like, I saw no safety in the middle. I was like, they about to run this guy across, and he about to run this QB power right down the middle, and yeah, they wasn't gonna catch him. So yeah. Any first thoughts on this game, man? What did you guys think about it? Because when you look at the stat line, it doesn't look like this is a game that should have been close, but then you see the 2 turnovers, right? And you kind of ask, well, when did those happen? How did those happen?
Now that's the one, yeah.
Right. But overall, it still looks like a game that Prairie View should have been able to win kind of comfortably, you know what I mean? But yet it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, that game was kind of weird because like that one score with the wide receiver, like you said, the safety was right there. It was like I was sitting there jumping up and down because I thought it was an interception. That's how close he was covering him. And you could tell there's a difference between game 1 and game 3 because their passing game, even though they didn't have 200 or 300 yards, it still was more efficient and looked better than it did against Alcorn. They did not play us the way they played Alcorn. So there's a difference between game 1 and game 3. They're getting better, and they got a couple breaks, so they really came to play. And like you said, the interceptions, you got to take into account when that interception was. We had them on their heels, and where I thought, Carter had a bunch of green in front of him to the right, but he threw it, but it was 2 DBs back there. And I think he could have ran and got at the minimum the first down. So, I'm sure they'll look at that on film and say, hey, in the future, I know you ran a lot, but it wouldn't have hurt to run that one more time just to see. I mean, it's easy for us to say because he could have threaded the needle and made the touchdown. But I just think the higher percentage would have been for him to take off and run it on that one because they were having a problem catching him all night. So I think it's not just the numbers, but when those things happen is what was really, really key.
Yeah. So a couple things stood out to me in terms of the first down efficiency was there. That was a big thing. A lot of times you'll look up, and it was almost like the reverse of the Rice game. Prairie View would be in 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4s consistently. And I remember Coach Jackson saying, yeah, we're a spread team, but that doggone power running game was man, it was something to watch when you see the pullers, and they were running some gap scheme. And man, when that backside guard pulled around on the kickout block, And then sometimes they had the wide receiver coming around to wrap and come up the middle. I'm like, man, that's like old Washington Redskins football.
Yes.
They used to call it counter trey, but they'll tag it and tell who the backside puller gonna be. But it was some great football watch. Like I say, ain't nothing like watching a good running game. And the thing about it, like I say, is one thing to run the ball, but it's another thing to run the ball, and they know you're gonna run the ball, and they can't do anything about it. And I noticed this in the press box. How many times the Northwestern State defenders was getting up off their back? How many times, especially in the fourth quarter, how many times they had to stop the game to get an injured player? And and I don't, want to wish harm to anybody, but it's a different ball game when you got to stop that run, especially like both. Well, the way they run the ball for their size is gonna give you problems because you can get shook or you can get ran over like pick the poison. So, and them guys making some business decisions. They come up there diving, but they ain't want none of that smoke, like they say.
Yeah, and I think it's an extra element, right? When you have, like Thunder and Lightning with McDowell and Beamon, right? But then you really also got another, Thunder guy in Tevin Carter.
Yeah,
because
he's big.
I saw multiple plays, right, when he decided to take out running that, guys tried to essentially put an arm out to slow him down and tackle him, and he kind of just basically flipped, you kind of flipped them off, right? And so that's also somebody who, with that frame that he got, basically 230, 6'4", people are not going to have it's just not going to be an easy job of getting him to the ground, especially if he gets to the second level as against a DB or safety, etc. So, that's something as well that's really added to that run game. And I think that's really why they kind of like Carter, is just because of that element he adds to the run game. Especially being able to make plays when things break down, right? He's been able many times to kind of get us some positive yardage there. Kayla makes the statement here, once he gets comfortable hitting the second, third read, he'll throw for 3 touchdowns a game. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that you're waiting to see the maturation of that from him, is just as a passer. And, because I think if you go look back at that game, you see that a lot of times, man, there were guys open on multiple plays, and he just don't see him, right? And so, the score could have been a lot different, even from that standpoint of just, putting the ball in the air and into the right place. But overall, at the end of the day, you got to be happy with the win. Coach, the offensive line obviously controlled the line of scrimmage. When you run for 342, it's kind of hard to be mad at anybody. But how do you feel overall with the team? Because there was some mistakes that allowed this game to be closer than what it should have been. And so how do you navigate, being happy and excited that your team was as physical as you wanted them to be on offense and defense, but at the same time kind of still, showing them like, hey, man, you guys made a game that probably should have been a 2-3 score game into one that was way closer than it needed to be.
So, look, I had an old coach tell me something about getting teams to come together. He said, man, you could take flour, sugar, salt, eggs, and a little vanilla extract. You gotta, in order to make a great cake, you got to mix that up. And sometimes it don't mix all the same. So it's going to take some time to mix it up and get it together. The other thing you have to do is apply heat to it in order to make it taste good too. So I think and people don't want to hear that anymore in football. So, they getting some heat applied to them, as well as they still mixing and gelling. I'm going to tell you something. I ran into big number 75, and Jeremiah. Look, man, I saw that joke of pancake somebody, and I'm like I say, I'm announcing the game, and my players used to say syrup him up, and they do like this, like they putting syrup on pancakes. So I ran into him, and I got to give him a shout out. So look, I saw him at what's the Wingstop in the front of Fairfield by the outlet mall, and if he wants some wings, and I guess it's not illegal anymore. Look, I get that joker some wings. So I'm telling my daughter, like, hey man, I'm telling my daughter this kid plays football at Prairie View, and she's like, man, he's big, but he needs to do with his hair. So
I've seen him.
Look, if y'all see him, somebody, if I don't know the coaching staff looking at it, but tell him that now I'm gonna have to limit to about 20 wings or so. But if he wants some wings, he'll definitely get it. Look, and sometimes this is what we would do sometimes as coaches, even though it wasn't legal back then. But if we met certain standards, like if we scored a touchdown on special teams, I would order chicken wings or pizza, whatever they wanted. But we had to win the game. So a game like this, you get 300-yard rushing. It might be can't nobody come in that room but the offensive lineman and eat.
Right.
And look,
Right.
Them jokers take some pride in being able to come in there.
Hey,
it's different, but yeah, man, they deserve whatever they get this week.
Listen, because we said it right. We have the backs that can make some moves. You get to the second level, right? And man, this game, I mean, hole after hole after hole after hole, right? To where they're not getting touched. We talked about it all last year. How man, guys kept getting met in the backfield so much last year, right? You know, and so the yardage that they were able to get was just really based on them just really making it work out the contact. Man, this game was, and really we and I said it before, right? We ran well the first two games. It's not that we didn't run the ball well the first two games. We actually ran the ball well the first two games, but this is just an explosion, right? And obviously McDowell was back fully for the first time, and so I think that helped too because of just those two different styles as you mentioned too. Jared put Rockwell always steps up, man, and you know I think that's
Rockwell,
one of the most sure-handed guys I've seen in a while, maybe probably since you know, a guy that's in the league right now with the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, just as sure-handed as he's been so far this year. And I really think that, you know, we have the weapons out wide, right, to get some things done. And you talk about that cake and putting it together. I think in the same way, right, when you talk about the QB and the wide receiver connection, you're seeing that as well, right, of being able to mix it. And the OC is in there too, right? The OC, the quarterback, the receivers, the offensive line. You can see it kind of mixing up. But it's good to get a win while you're also figuring it out. But now, we're at a point now where you've had 4 games. Really, you had 3 games, right? The first game was like, hey, we got to see where you are, and you still got to win it, right? You know what I'm saying? You were able to do that. Now you got 3 games to kind of really throw some stuff at the wall, kind of see kind of where you're out, what guys look like. Now you're going into the next one where, hey, you got a team that's coming in that's really excited, probably for them as well, for what they've been able to do, and now they got to get out off the canvas and see like, hey man, it's about time to pull that thing out the oven and see what it tastes like. So before we get into that though, because I know that you know we're gonna get into that the games that's coming up this weekend, but hey, we got a special segment. Obviously, you guys all know about the segment. And so without further ado, we're going to take it to our newest segment that all you guys love. It's entitled Under the Headset, right? Under the Headset. And so on today, we're actually going to be going through and walking through pre-game walkthrough and alignment by numbers, right? That's what we're going to look at for our pre-game walkthrough. I mean, for Under the Headset segment. So Coach Northern, man, it's on you. Take it away.
All right, if you can you put the diagram of the field up? Okay, so a couple things that go on. So whenever we play, the college field is lined differently from the NFL field. So one of the things that we do, especially when we play at the neutral site games, because we don't know how the field is going to be marked, is usually the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, head coach will walk out there with the quarterback first and foremost to make sure he knows where the play clocks are on different end of the stadium. So just say I was at the Rice game, they had 1 clock low and 1 clock high, and you have to pay attention to that as a quarterback, knowing where those play clocks are, because in some instances you get rushed, the call may come in late, you checking, you see a defense, the next thing you know, coach running over, calling timeout. But sometimes I would say that's on the quarterback. First is on the coordinator to get the call in on time. Then it's on the quarterback to know where the clock is, to know if he needs to speed up, get the guys to the line in a hurry, you know, those types of things. But a lot of times with everybody going, for the most part, no huddle, you don't have to worry about that as much. So that's one thing that we do in pregame warmups is walk the field with your quarterbacks and look where those play clocks are. The other thing that we do is will go through the field with the defensive players and primarily the safeties and the DBs and talk about where the hash marks are. So in the NFL, if you look at that field where the goalposts are, can you take me off and just put the field up and I'll talk for a second and make the field bigger for everybody to see it? Can you do that? Well, so, all right. So if you look, you see the NFL, this is a pro stadium goalpost, and the hash marks are 18 feet, 6 inches wide, the same as the goalpost in the NFL game. In a college game, the hashes are 60 feet wide. But if you look at the numbers, so this is an NFL field. The NFL numbers are higher from the sideline because the NFL games are made for TV. So they want you to be able to look immediately and see where the ball is. That's one of the reasons why those numbers are up so high. And those numbers are the same size as the college numbers. So you see the NFL numbers, that's one thing we'll talk about. Then you see the little dashes that are below. If we're looking at the sideline to the left, you see the 10, the 20. You see those dashes. That is put down because that's where the college football numbers are. So as we're teaching our players defense, we call it bottom of the numbers. If you're looking from the left side of the screen to the field, the bottom of the numbers is going to tell you one thing. If a wide receiver lines up at the bottom of the numbers, he's usually going to run some in breaking route. If he lines up in the middle or the top of the numbers, he's usually going to run an out breaking route because he still has to leave himself space to get those routes in. But now you'll see some people that'll line up, they use all 53 and a third yards of the field. So we'll tell our guys, if he lines up at the bottom of the numbers, don't go all the way out there because he's going to come back to you or they're throwing him a screen. So it's just different. And then you see the hash marks are different too. So the hash marks in a college game are, I want to say 60 feet if I'm 60 feet from the sideline. So it's a little bit wider for the guys to defend. So, sometimes if we say we're going to line up in cover 2, I'll tell my guys, use the hash marks. That is your landmark. And I would tell guys, if you get a concussion, look at the goalposts because the goalposts don't move. So you look at all those different landmarks to tell you where to align. Then it may change if the ball is on the hash to the wide side of the field or the ball is on the hash to the short side. So it's different things like that a lot of times that will dictate how wide a guy lines up. And I was looking at the game last night. The safety from Northwestern State was lined up 22 yards off the ball on some play. So I don't know if he was just scared or what, but I've never seen a safety line up that way. But there's some things that we talk about knowing that's going to help you play fast. Like I say, I wasn't the fastest guy in the world, but I could figure out, okay, the ball is on the hash, the fullback is offset to the field, then 9 times out of 10, the ball is going that way. Or you'll see some teams, if they put, when I call formation, if they put 3 or 4 receivers into the boundary, then they probably either trying to go one-on-one to the field, which Prairie View did the other night. I was like, man, that's a great setup because they couldn't do but one coverage pretty much the way they lined up. And they took a shot and he made a great play down the sideline, but he didn't leave himself that much space. And then in some places you'll see they put a red line almost halfway between the college numbers and a hash, and they'll tell guys, don't run outside that when you running your fades and all that type of stuff, because you have to learn how to lead the quarterback room. And I'll tell you this, one of the guys that was at Prairie View last year, I thought was a pretty good football player, but he always, when he's what we call stem or release, his release was so wide, he made the quarterback almost have to make a perfect throw. So that's sort of how things go hand in hand. You could take it, you could, put us back up or whatever. But like I say, that's some of the things. And when you watching the game, look and see where that outside receiver is. If he's outside the numbers, then just sort of make a mental note. Is he coming back inside or is he going vertical? And I'll tell you this, when I coached at Texas Southern that one year, Adam must have been about 7 or 8 years old, and I brought him to practice, and I made him stand with the DBs, and I say, Adam, when you see where the guy line up, tell those guys where he gonna run. And it was like, Coach, how you know? I say, man, I'm telling him the same thing I told y'all. If he below the numbers, he gonna come back to you. If he middle of the numbers, he going vertical. If he on top of the numbers, he leaving himself room to go outside. So it's amazing if a 7 or 8 year old can do it, but y'all can't do it. And they like, nah, Coach, you told. Like, nah, man, watch the game, watch the routes, and it'll make you a better fan sitting in the stand. And then y'all gonna be sitting up there saying, "Oh man, he ain't leave the quarterback no room up there." So that's simple football.
Hey, listen, that's
good.
The first under the head said when you talked about the alignments of the running backs. Hey, the next weekend I paid attention to that, and I'm like, listen, it was spot on.
Yes,
all right, it was spot on. So, hey, we giving y'all some. We trying to make y'all better fans. Okay,
understand the game.
That's what we do here on the recap. PV versus everybody. We trying to make SWAC fans better football fans. Okay, so you can know the game, and obviously that's because we got coach in the building, Coach.
Hey, look, they already think they the best coaches in the world anyway. Like I say, they don't realize how much the game slows down when they sitting in the stand.
Listen, Coach, this probably gonna make it worse. Actually, this probably ain't.
Yeah, this is gonna make it worse.
Right? This is actually making it. This is actually making it worse.
Hey, okay? and you add a little crown royal to it too. What's gonna happen?
Now they're gonna be saying
he shouldn't be at the bottom of the numbers. Why they got him running that?
Yeah, that's the one right there.
Hey, it's just more ammunition.
Hey, Coach Jackson, that's my bad, Coach.
Hey, listen, take me out. So come get me.
Had enough.
That's me.
Hey, listen, that's good. Hey, listen, Rockwell definitely might be one of. Hey, listen, he might be. Hey, listen, right now he's leading the SWAC in receiving yards. So, hey, it is what it is, right? Sure-handed guy, right? And when you got a guy you can trust, the thing is when you can trust a guy to be where you know he's gonna be.
Yep.
That's why he's gonna get a lot of targets.
He does that.
Because he's where they say he's gonna be. Yeah, O-line moving people for sure. He said Rockwell 8 on my PV fantasy. Yeah, man. Delvin trying to stay at the top of that PV fantasy rankings. You know what I mean? Jared said good stuff, Coach. So with that said, man, let's get into it. Hey, we got this next week of games coming up. And I just want to talk a little bit first and foremost about what is coming up, right? You know what I'm saying, game-wise. Sorry, wrong screen. What is coming up game-wise, right? You know what I'm saying? Because listen, there's some good ones coming up, and we got to see what we see is the game of the week, man. When you talk about all these games that we got coming up on this next weekend, obviously we got the PV Graham game. We're gonna talk a little about that one. Alabama A&M, Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman coming in 1-3. Alabama A&M coming in hot at 3-1. Listen, that's gonna be interesting down in Daytona Beach. Hey, listen, with all that's going on, Bethune-Cookman can still start their SWAC season out right if they can continue rolling after what they did again at the end of the last game. What they did this game at Waters, it's gonna be interesting to see. Alabama A&M defense been playing a lot better. Then you got the big one down in Tallahassee. Ooh, Alabama State, Florida A&M. And listen, them boys at State been waiting, been chumping, been just circling on their calendar this game because listen, they beat Jackson over the last few years, right? The team they haven't figured out is FAMU. And when I say they got them at a good time, Coach, you trying to figure out the QB situation down there too. Yeah. It's a good time for them to get them. Then you got Texas Southern, Mississippi Valley. At the end of the day, no matter what has happened in these first 3 games, both of these teams are in a position, first SWAC game of the season, where they can see if we can get a dub, right? And now it's in Itta Bena, right? And so for Mississippi Valley, as much as I still like what I've seen for Texas Southern, at the end of the day, man, Mississippi Valley still has an opportunity now to say, man, we can catch Texas Southern, you know what I mean, early in the season and get our SWAC season going well. Then you got Arkansas Pine Bluff and Alcorn State in Memphis, so a game that's in a neutral site. Alcorn has been trying to figure it out on the offensive side, got some things rolling against Alabama A&M 2 weeks ago. Arkansas Pine Bluff got a chance to get things rolling against Lincoln. Who's going to be able to show up early on, maybe get that lead, hold on to it. And then you also got the Boonbach Classic, right? Jackson State going to Baton Rouge against Southern. Again, whatever Southern's happened in those first 4 games, ain't none of them SWAC games.
Don't count no more.
So they got a chance now to win a SWAC game against a team that everybody is saying is that team this year. That's what a lot of people saying. Now, I ain't said that because y'all know they ain't covering me.
That's why they hate you.
I told you they finished the second in the SWAC East. But everybody else been saying that. So now, you got a chance at Southern to really be able to start your SWAC season off right and really be able to – everything that's happened in these last 4 weeks, let me tell you, them SWAC fans' mind going to change super quick if you come out and win this game against Jackson State. So, Coach, that's a lot of great games on the schedule. Man, what's your game of the week when you look at the schedule of games? Matter of fact, Mickens, man, you go first. Let me know what game this week is your SWAC game of the week.
Wow. See, we have division games. And man, Alabama State, that could they're in Tallahassee. Man, that could be, but then again, Texas Southern needs this game against Valley, and that's first of all, that's a tough trip. Even getting itty beanie. I still say it, and I say it every show. They still shouldn't have cut the grass and put in turf. I'm just saying. But then you got Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff and Alcorn.
Taking away that grass is like, see, if they had that grass, it's like getting ready for the.
Oh, if they had that grass,
it's like
it would be over for Texas
game. Yeah, you only got one a year where you got to get ready for that. Everybody else got turf, but then you got to get ready for this grass, right? You know
and that grass is tall. They think they didn't cut it before game day, so they would practice on it all tall and
with the mosquitoes.
And the man-sized mosquitoes, but it's tough to get up there, so. But then Alcorn, they really looking to change their fortunes, but oh man. And then the PV Grant, man.
You gotta give me one. Outside of PV Grambling game, though. Outside of PV Grambling.
Okay, that helps. I'll go the obvious game, Jackson State and Southern, because whoever loses this game, they're gonna be mighty quiet. And to be honest, now, hear me out. The Jackson State people are going to tar and feather me on Twitter, but this is going to be the game to determine who can actually pass the ball because you have two teams that like to run it. But I think the team that wins this one is somebody that gets their passing game off the ground. And I know they've had a couple games where they got some decent numbers passing, but they're not just that blowout passing team. So whoever can get the passing game going is going to be tough to keep up with just running the ball. So I'm going to pick that game because I really want to see, and Southern's at home, so there's no pushover at home. So I want to see what they're going to do. And man, and it should be a well-attended game because all those fans know each other. So I'm going to go with that one, Jackson State and the polka-dotted Panthers.
Yeah. Hey, listen, which defensive line plays better?
Yes.
That's who's going to win.
They got to do something with Givens.
Both of those teams want to run the ball. And by the way, I would just like to say at this moment, this is another time where, maybe I should take Coach Northern out the screen because I try to keep him out of my.
We try to keep him clean. Yeah,
I try to keep him clean. But I just want to say it right now. Didn't I tell y'all Jackson State a running team? I told y'all this all season when y'all invited me on these other shows and y'all was talking all this stuff about how Jacoby Moore going to get drafted to the NFL. And I told you it's not going to happen. Now because I have no problem with him, right? I have no problem. I hope he make it XFL, whatever. Don't matter, right? But just as it is right now, he's not going to make it. And he's not going to get an opportunity to because he's not going to throw for 3,000. I told y'all this all season. I said, you are a running team. You're a running team. You are a running team. Y'all got all these receivers. It don't matter because y'all ain't got not enough balls to throw around anyway. I told y'all this. I told y'all. It don't mean that you can't win. It ain't mean that you ain't got an opportunity to still be a great team. But you're going to do that on the ground because you're a running team.
No, they're a running team.
You're a run first team in excess of the pass. So now with that being said, y'all realize he ain't throwing no touchdown. I'm just trying to say who right and who's wrong so far because I try to tell y'all in this offseason, y'all are running team. Okay,
you just have to make
trouble. This is the game of who is going to win the trenches. Which defensive line plays better? will win this game, right? Because both of these teams are trying to run for 200 plus. And the team that runs for 200 plus is going to be the team to win the game. And unfortunately, I don't think Southern is going to be with us. I haven't seen that they have the ability to stop the run so far this year. I just haven't seen it, right? And now you're going against a team in Jackson that has a seasoned offensive line, right? That has quality running backs. Yep. I just don't think Southern can handle that consistently for 4 quarters, right?
No, they're going to beat them up.
In and out, right? I don't think they're going to be to keep them. Coach talked about first down, and that was one of my keys to the game with us against Northwestern. First down success. I don't see them keeping Jackson in second and longs, right? And so because of that, I just got to get a nod to Jackson, right? And again, when you talk about Southern and Jackson, or you talk about Southern's offense, they're also limited when it comes to the passing game. And so if they can't make big plays over top that makes Jackson have to soften the box, it's not a lot of room for Trey Holly or for the guy from Jacksonville State, forgot his name, right? It's not a lot of room for them, you know what I'm saying, to get it in. So, that's my thoughts on that one. But I think that is a good game of the week. Coach, what's your game of the week?
The Southern in me want to say that game. I had a tough decision to make. Was I going to go to Baton Rouge and watch that game, or was I going to take my son up to the State Fair Classic up in Dallas? So I decided I'm going to the Dallas game, just to sort of make sure his trip is enjoyable. I'll call the game, with Mike Prince on Open Mic Network, and it gives me a chance to see a lot of people. I really, like I say, if I had to pick anywhere that I lived before, I go back to Grambling yesterday. So I mean, but I'll tell you this, man, riding in the State Fair on a bus with the team is by far one of the best experiences I've ever had as a football coach. It's something special about that ride, and you seeing the people with the black and gold and the purple and gold. So my game of the week is going to be the Prairie View Grambling game because I'm going to it. But other than that, the Southern, the boombox class as they call it, that would be any other week. I would say that's going to be number one. But I mean, it's going to draw people from all over. It's heated, and I think the thing that makes them so heated, they exactly the same. They don't want to admit it, but both of them have great tradition in football. Both of them are a little bit in the hood or hood-ish, hood adjacent, but they don't want to say that. And it's been some close battles back and forth, throughout the years of who's going to win the championship. I mean, when Jackson State was going to the playoffs, my senior year, that was the only loss we had was to the Jackson State team. So I got a lot of respect for those guys. They had one of the best setups, but that offensive line that they have, man, is and everybody. And I think a lot of people thought the wide receiver room, because of who they have, there's some talent in that joker. But if your bread and butter and winning is about running that football, they got what you need to run the football. That offense gonna travel because they're gonna bludgeon you a little bit.
Yes, they are.
Listen, it is what it is, right? You know what I mean? And I think it's interesting, to see. Again, it's gonna be interesting to see what I know now. You got also a guy in McNair that's gonna be a calling plays for Southern. And so I know that's going to be interesting to see kind of what maybe wrinkles that, he adds in kind of just how he puts a game plan together. But at the end of the day, you got the guys that you got, right? And so it's a chance again for Southern to really show up and to again put everybody on notice, because everything that happened before was non-SWAC related, right? And I see Brian Matthews he said PB was an air raid team. Coach Jackson said PB was an air raid team, just to correct you, right? You know what I'm saying? I just shared the information here that it's an air raid team with as Coach Northern said, right, a power run game. That's what he said, right? Which is what I said. It's an air raid team with a power run game. Now, I guess it's because you saying you ain't seen the air raidedness of it. Hey, listen, that I'm with you too. All right, I'm looking for the air raidedness as well, right? But now, I will say, like, it's guys running open though, right? You know what I mean? So it ain't not the air raid because the guys ain't getting schemed open, because I've seen some of them running scot-free. It's just right now we got to get everybody on the same page, right? And then you're going to see the air raidedness of it, right? But until then, right, you gonna get bludgeoned too. All right, you know what I mean. I try to know not my nonsense, but you gonna get bludgeoned too by this 352. I'm gonna just call us the 352 from now on, since that's what we running for. All right, y'all know what when I say 352, you know I mean that running back room and that old line. All right, at Prairie View A&M University, that 352. All right, but with that said, you know what I mean. Listen, another game is Alabama State FAMU. This is my game of the week.
Oh man, this one,
because I think it's you kind of got to get a nod to Jackson based on what you've seen so far in that game. Obviously, I think the Grambling Prairie View game is huge, right? Because both of those teams are coming in now, feeling on a high. So for the SWAC West, just as you saw Texas Southern game, this is another big game for Grambling if they can again get a win here. Obviously, Prairie View will go up 2 games in the SWAC West if they win this game. So that's a huge game for sure, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But this Alabama State and FAMU game right now for Alabama State, after these last couple years of them being really propped up, as I called them last year, draft night, Caitlin Clark was what I nodded them, right? Because they had all the hype, right? Well, it's time to see if they can put that hype to if it can be manifested, right? And this is really the game for it to manifest, right? You know what I'm saying? Because they have an opportunity now with the FAMU. It's like FAMU is coming in this game staggering. That's the reality. And so the real thing is, if you don't put FAMU out before they realize they're in a fight, and they wake up and realize they're in a fight, ain't no guarantee that they ain't still got a solid right hand. You see what I'm saying? Like, them jokers still can knock you out, right? You get what I'm saying, Coach? Like, either you gonna put them out their misery early and like really put your foot on their neck and not allow them to get a chance to really breathe. I'm telling you, Alabama State, if you allow FAMU to stick around into the third quarter and it get late, man, it might be trouble. Because as much as they still trying to figure on the offensive side of things, they still got a solid defense, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you let them stick around if you want to, it's going to be trouble. But I think Alabama State they've been waiting for this, because this is the one that they've said, man, this is the hump we can't get over. We beat Jackson before. We haven't been able to take care of FAMU. And so I'm excited for just this weekend in general in SWAC football. These are some great games, period. I mean, even when you talk about the Texas Southern Valley game, you talk about the Palm Bluff Alcorn game, there's really intrigue all up and down. Even we didn't even talk about the Alabama A&M and Bethune game. I think there's intrigue all and up and down this schedule, right? A SWAC schedule this week. And so it's great to have something like SWAC TV to be able to go up and watch all of these games, right? But before we get into really breaking down the Graham and Prairie View game and get out of here for the day, obviously we got to go to everybody's favorite segment. You know what I'm saying? Y'all already know what it is, man. It's none other than Northern Lights, right? You know what I'm saying?
This is gonna be
Northern Lights, all right? It ain't Southern Lights, you know what I'm saying?
It's Northern Lights.
Northern Lights, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, Coach, at this time, obviously, we talked about the top 5 offenses that you face, right? This week, man, we're going to be talking about the top 5 defenses that you faced. And so, at this time, Coach, man, I'm gonna allow you to, man, go and take it away.
So I'm gonna just talk about some of the top defenses that I've seen, that I had to coach against lately. So, and I just grouped them up by either head coach, defensive coordinator, or school with the coaches involved and maybe some of the players. But I'll start off with Grambling when Coach Rod Broadway was the head coach. He had Coach Cliff Yoshida, who coached me at Southern, was the defense coordinator at Prairie View my last year. He had this thing where he would go somewhere, and the very first year when he came to Southern, we won the championship. When he went to Grambling that first year, they won the championship. So he had a very simple philosophy of how to do things, and that defense that they had at Grambling was pretty doggone special with Coach Rod Broadway and Coach Yoshida there. Then you got to add the North Carolina A&T version of their 4-2-5 defense. So Rod Broadway was a head coach. He had Sam Washington, who later became the head coach at A&T, and Trey Oliver over there on the defensive staff, who's now the head coach at North Carolina Central. He was at Southern. He was at Grambling when they were there with Coach Yoshida and all that. So you can see how that lineage sort of traveled well with being, it was, we're going to stop the run. We're going to play cover 1 or cover 3. We're going to load the box and make you with all that RPO stuff. They pretty much made you think you had to pass the ball. And then they were so good on the outside, and they had some very good tackling safeties over there. Underrated defense that a lot of people don't think about was the Texas Southern defense when Coach Kevin Ramsey, was the defensive coordinator. And that was the first time I heard of the 212 defense. And I want to say Coach Jackson was down there during that time, but Coach Kevin Ramsey and that defense that they had at Texas Southern, man, they'll line up in what we call a split front, twist the defensive line, send 2 guys off the edge, or they'll play some bear front as well. What we call bear front, it means the center and both guards are covered up. And they played a lot of man free, and they gave your quarterback the blues. They stopped the run game because that box was loaded. They had one linebacker that you couldn't get to, especially if they had a good nose guard. So that Texas Southern Kevin Ramsey defense. Then Alabama A&M, when they had Coach Townsend, oh man, the defensive end, he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame soon, that played for the Colts. Man, I'm drawing a blank on that sucker name. Somebody drop it in the comments. But he played for the Colts. So we had a kid at Grambling. We played at A&M twice. Brandon James, we call him Bruiser. That joker made All-American because we played him twice and didn't give up a Mathis. That's him. Yep, my sister. Thanks, girl. Mathis. And, man, all that joker did. But, man, he did the same thing. Loaded up the box. They were going to run bullets A or bullets B. When we say A and B, that means they were going to blitz up the A gap with the linebackers and send the tackles to the B gap, or you're going to send the tackles inside and the linebackers through the B gap. But Bronski Towns, I have a lot of respect for that guy because after we would play him, he'd always, he liked what we were doing on defense, and he would come over and talk to me after the game. I got a lot of respect for him and that defense that they have. They stayed good a long time, from coming from D2 to, playing us in a championship game a couple of times when I was in Grambling. The Alcorn defense, when they had those couple of championships with Coach Hobson, Sid Thornton was the defensive coordinator. He's now at Tennessee State. But Sid, I would probably say, was one of the top 2 or 3 assistant coaches that I had worked with. I had been in the game a good while when I worked with him at Texas Southern, but just some of the thoughts that he had about defending things. He was a double spiel guy. He wanted to force everything to the outside, where I was a spiel and box guy. So we merged that. But that joker, just the terminology that he used and how he could make stuff simple for guys. And what they did at Alcorn was very good for those championship runs. And last but not least, man, I got to throw my defense in there, because if not, some of my boys going to kill me. People started talking about the Purple Haze defense, and 2 years in a row, every game we didn't set a goal of knocking people quarterbacks out, but we went 9-1 one year. The one game we lost, we didn't get to see the second string quarterback play. So it became a mentality, guys, we got to make him through pain or confusion. We got to see the second string quarterback. So we had some pretty good defense, and we would challenge guys to say, look, we want to try to outscore our offense some games, which we did. Or we would say, I don't want to hear anything about, coach, we tired, the offense going 3 and out. I say, well, if you so doggone good, then you score the football, or you take it back and give it to them in good field position. And they bought into that. So it's a little bit more than 5, but I think arguably those are some of the top 5 defense within the last, I'm going to say 2000. Now, if I go to that 95, we played Jackson State. Man, Jackson State had some Fernando and Marlowe. Man, they had some jokers. Picasso Nelson. Look, Picasso led the nation in interception. I finished second to him my senior year in interceptions that year. So, man, Picasso played in the Senior Bowl. But man, they had about my senior year, I think they had 6 guys play in the NFL, not just get there, but they played in the NFL off that 95 Jackson State defense. So I'm gonna wrap it up with that. But I think that's a good list right there because everything going to offense, but I think that's some good defense that we've seen lately in the conference.
No, I definitely think that's a good listen again, man. That's Northern Lights with Coach Ice Northern. All right, y'all already know, man, how we do. Getting him to put Coach Northern under the spotlight. So, Kerry, man, what was your thoughts on these guys that Coach Northern brought up on these different defenses?
Yeah, those were good defenses. I was around long enough to see those, so definitely hit some high points on those defenses because everybody wants to fly around now, and everybody's looking at offense, but those really good defenses really help some of those teams get over the hump. And I remember that old school Jackson State defense. They were really, really good. So they were tough to run and pass on. So, yeah.
Yep. They were sending defensive linemen and DBs to the NFL like it was a manufacturing spot for the jokers over there one time.
Like it's a manufacturing.
Yeah, they were tough.
Yeah.
Man, with that said, man, getting into our last segment of the evening, talking about the upcoming State Fair Classic game, right? Just a little bit of the leaders, Xavier T-Set, right, 665 yards, 6 touchdowns, only 1 interception, I think, which is big for them too as well. Cam Peters, 379 yards right now. Tevin Carter is the starting at QB, and so I think he's a little bit under 379 yards, I think like 360 something, right, with 2 touchdowns and an interception. Then obviously running backs, you got Eaton at 27 carries, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Bingman 54 for 328. Receivers 200 yards for George. Rockwell for 346 on 24 catches, which is both are leading the SWAC right now. And then obviously sacks, 3 for Robinson. Bryce Cage also has 1.5 sacks, as well as leading Grambling in tackles at 18. Trevor Randall leading the Panthers in tackles at 29. He also has a forced fumble recovery, also has an interception, also has a sack. So he's definitely putting up some potential all SWAC numbers so far on the year, man. What's your guys' thoughts first and foremost when you think about this game, and what are the keys to this game for both of these teams?
Whoever gonna be able to run it and not get the big penalty that calls a score, bring a score back or a big play back. But it's gonna be highly emotional. I'm looking forward to be there. But that run game, and I don't think people understand when we talk about power run game. I'm in an enclosed box for the last game, and man, when them guards was pulling backside and kicking out that end, I could hear it through the glass. I can say, man, it's a special feeling when you can hear football. But man, I think the running game is going to be most important, and then because the running game is going to be so important, who could win maybe 1 or 2 matchups outside vertically in the passing game.
And this is a funny game because also who gets the lucky bounce? In this game, it's usually somebody running behind you, hit the ball, and it's out, and also on that power run, everybody has to participate. I know I like my meat eaters, and I show people the picture I took with McDowell, and they are amazed how big that running back is. I'm like, I'm not big, but I'm not a little guy. And I mean, he looks like a lean defensive end standing next to me because you can't tell in the game because the linemen are so big, but people don't realize how big of a running back he is, and we really missed him in the game. But on that power run, everybody has to participate because that one run, Randy Ojo, number 9, shout out to him.
Oh, yes.
Man, he made a great block.
Great block.
Yeah. The receivers definitely were in the run. And I think one big difference between this game and, say, the Texas Southern game is, and they talked about it, right? We got a couple holding calls on the outside, right, with the tight end or wide receiver. And, Coach Jackson talked about going out, right? And we're looking at those things. And whatever they saw, right, they obviously were able to coach it up, right? Because since that day, you haven't seen that outside hold from the tight end receivers coming, getting called. In this game, they were able to really be able to get into the run game as far as really being able to block. Probably also talking to the running backs about, man, how to run off those blocks too as well,
Yes.
so that way you don't put your guys in a bad situation and cause a holding penalty, right? But they did a great job downfield too as well. And so it looked like just the whole team all together took pride this past game and really saying, hey, man, we're going to put hands on you and we ain't going to let you go where you want to go, right? We're gonna take you where we're going to take you. It's interesting in this game, right, because obviously the first 4 games, some of these games are a little bit different. Obviously, you got like the Rice game for Prairie View where Rice obviously runs a triple option. And so I think they ran for over 350 yards or whatever it was, right? They're going to run the ball 60 times a game, right? You know what I mean? And so, they're going to put up numbers like that. And then, you definitely got to look at Grambling against Langston, right? That's going to be a little lopsided.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, right, where we at now going into this game, you're looking at the number 2 and number 3 teams rushing-wise, right? Prairie View averaging 190 yards a game rushing. Grambling averaging 171.5 yards a game rushing. And then, again, right, Grambling right now only giving up 125 yards rushing, on the ground, right? And that's 3rd in the SWAC. And so regardless, again, they held East Texas A&M to, I think, 123, right? And so, again, we can talk about Langston. You can talk about, Kentucky State. But they held a LCS team to 123, right? And so kind of similar to that Jackson and Southern matchup, who's going to control the line of scrimmage and who's going to really be able to run the ball, right? We've done a solid job at controlling the run at PV, right? I think we look at that Texas Rio Grande Valley game, man. Through the first 3 quarters, them guys only had 70 yards rushing, and so they had the 2 big runs in the 4th that really put them back in the game, right, and allowed them to take the lead. But up to that point, we had done a really good job against the run, right? Did a good job, a relatively good job at Texas Southern game too as well. And so I think it's going to be really interesting this game to see what happens, in the run game and see how which team is able to run the ball and which team is able to control the line of scrimmage on the other side of things. And then also, man, listen, turnovers, because especially for PV side of things, in the 2 games we played, 3 games we played LCS opponents, right? We've outgained, our opponents in 2 of those 3 games, but both of those games were still one-score victories. And so when you look back at it, you say, man, really, it's on us. It's not really on them. It's on us that we allowed these games to be closer than they should have been. And so when is this team gonna have a complete game, right? Because I think you see a lot of good things from the defense. You see a lot of obviously good things from the offense, but you haven't seen them necessarily put together a full game yet. And so now going to be the 5th game in. This really would be the perfect time to see everything come together as one. And again, like Coach say, see what the cake tastes like. Like pull it out the oven. It's time. It's ready to go. See what it tastes like. And I think this would really be a good game to see those things. We're not gonna be able to tell until it happens, right? But it's definitely gonna be interesting. But I really do think it's gonna be a real test, because you got 2 quarterbacks that also can use their legs with T-Set and with Carter. And so, man, it's like, hey, pick your poison, right? Which of these teams is going to really get it rolling? I think whoever gets started early is going to really be good for them. And so we're gonna really see, man. Everybody in the comments, drop your keys to the game for the State Fair Classic. What are your keys to the game for this State Fair Classic? What do you see that needs to be done in order for either one of these teams, right, to get the win and get the job done? Mr. Mickey.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what we're going to do with the kickoff team, because other than kickoffs, that punter we have, he gets some really good lift on the ball and he kicks it high, and some good games there. But I think a little better on that kickoff coverage.
Coach, what is your thoughts on that, right? Because we definitely had a some different thought process regarding that. Isaiah, start hot, clean up special teams, eliminate opposing teams, big plays, and play smart. That first game obviously didn't do well in the kickoff coverage. They have basically said essentially, y'all ain't gonna cover, we ain't gonna kick the ball deep then, right? You can't put the ball in the end zone. We ain't gonna kick the ball deep then, right? I take, and for me, my thought process is, hey, if you getting the ball between the 25 and the 30, I don't care because that's where you would get it anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So, but what's your thought process on that, right? Because we did have one that got kicked a little bit too short and gave him good field position on that one play, right? But I still would take that over the field position we gave Texas Southern in the first game.
But the thing you have to understand is them jokers from Texas Southern was special, man.
Yes.
They could wake up right now, probably. You go get them out the dorm room and probably want some 4-4s and 4-5s.
Right.
So the strategy behind it, and I've been on both sides of it, is to try to kick the ball. You give the guy a landmark. You may say, I want the ball to land on the 25 to 30-yard line. And when I was a special teams coordinator, if we were sky kicking, 9 times out of 10, we would do it to our sideline unless the kicker asked me, can we always go right? Because for some guys, they rather sky kick to their right side instead of come back to the left. But I would go stand, kick the ball to me about 5 yards short of the sideline and make those guys high and short and catch the ball. So it's a good strategy, but that's something that those kickers have to work on. They got to work on with the wind blowing, with it raining, whatever it is, they have to work on making sure that they're getting it far enough down to where and high enough to almost soon as the guy catches the ball, if he's not calling a fair catch, somebody from Prairie View to make the tackle within 3 to 5 yards of him, because that guy has a lot on his mind with a guy running full speed at him. So it's a good strategy, but it's a good strategy when the guy kicks the ball where it's supposed to be kicked. Because if he kicks it out of bounds, they're going to get the ball 30 yards from the spot of the kick. So a lot of people they just think it's some, 5 yards or whatever, but it's 30 yards from the previous kick. The other thing is, if he kicks it and doesn't get enough air on it, you can tell a guy to catch it and just go straight forward and then maybe slide before you get, and then you end up with the ball 35 or 40-yard line. So it's some strategy involved in that, but it goes down. It's like everything else. It boils down to execution. Can you get it high enough at the right spot on a consistent basis? But it is a good strategy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like maybe you didn't even give them a chance, right, in any of the other games, right? And so we don't know if it's just TXU is special or if guys really can't cover, but they just like, listen, the analogy I used earlier, I was talking with Zay about it offline, and I was like, hey, the Bible say, man, if your eye offends you, pluck it out, right? If your arm offends you, cut it off, okay? Coach Jackson's like, listen, my special teams is offending me, and I
hey, man. Hey, what testament that's in? I ain't no Bible guy, but what you got to think about what testament it is.
That's the New Testament. First of all, now we in Bible study class. This is my forte. All right, these are the words of Jesus himself. Okay, you know what I'm saying? He say, listen, if your eye offends you, pluck it out. Okay, all right, you know what I mean. So if y'all want to deep dive into that, hit your boy up. Right, we can talk about it. But Coach Jackson, using the analogy, Coach Jackson say, listen, my special teams is offending me, and I'm gonna carry out the words of my Savior. And he say, I'm cutting that joke off. I ain't taking no chance. Listen, you not gonna beat me by returning the kickoff. If it's one way, I ain't gonna lose, right? It's like when I used to always say, every time I go to these little theme parks and stuff like that, they got all these rides. Every time I think about, they're like, oh, you want to ride this ride? So the thing I think in my head is like, now, if I die because I rode it, that would be a stupid way that's the most dumbest way to die, is falling off a theme park ride. Like, it's so anticlimactic. It's like you ain't try to save your wife. You ain't take a bullet for some kids at a school. You died because you got on a theme park ride. Like, that's the stupidest way to die. Coach Jackson's like, I'm not gonna be stupid and die off of somebody returning kickoffs because they can't cover. You can't cover and you can't kick the ball in the end zone. Kick it in the air.
Yes.
And it better go in the air 400 feet, and it better come down at the 25 to 30 yard line. That's where, and they better fair catch it. Okay, so I ain't got no insanity. That's insanity. Insanity.
No, it is. Yeah.
But anyway, oh man, that's so funny. He said start tagging me from now on, so I don't miss the show. hey,
you don't have to.
Hey, he don't miss boy. I wonder where he was.
He don't miss any shows. I don't know what
the notification bell. That's the problem. You need to hit the notification bell. For y'all out there who ain't subscribed, listen, we 3 subscribers away. Somebody out here watching right now and you ain't even subscribed to the channel. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. Stop playing. Hit the subscribe button. Stop joking. Crook, you need to hit the notification bell because that let me know you ain't hit the notification bell because that's why you ain't getting it. All right. So all y'all who been waiting for us to drop, if you hit the bell, we gonna know when we drop and when it come out. So said Miss Rector taught coach to trust his eye. All right. I spy with my little eye a team that can't cover by and by. Oh man, Will Wallace say Grambling by 3. He don't believe that, by the way. He really don't.
He don't need it.
As like Kerry say, no recess. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. With that said, any other thoughts, man? Before we go, obviously, I think this is gonna be a great weekend.
I got a thought before you go. Since Chris want to show up, have him drop the score of the Jackson State Southern game.
Oh, I like that. I like what you're talking now. Crook, go drop your score for the Jackson State Southern game this weekend. That's good. That's good. He said, "Will keeping it real." Grambling by 3. Will keeping it real. You know? Hey,
Will.
I was gonna say,
okay. Look at that.
If it's something
that's crazy
that you guys want to talk about on the either the Northern Lights or under the headset, I guess the easy thing to do is probably drop a line on Instagram or one of those social media forums. You know, I have a list of some things to talk about, but you know, sometimes it's better to have somebody ask a question about something and then I answer it. Then I can add a couple other things to it. So if it's something that, you know, situation wise or, you know, just anything, let me know and I'll come up with a few minutes of talking points.
Yeah. Hey, listen, y'all let us know, man. Hey, Under the Headset has been great so far. You know, everything Coach is sharing. If you haven't been checking it out, man, you got to check it out because he's literally breaking down the game. And I'm telling you that after that week, he told us about the running back alignment and knowing whether they running the ball, whether it's a pass play. Listen, he was spot on. So now we about to check out this on top of the number. You know what I'm saying? The bottom of the number. We're gonna check that out this weekend and see how that goes. See if he 2 for 2. We're gonna keep building it from there. So again, if you want to grow in your knowledge, right? Because see, obviously, Crook know how to run the ball when they hand it to him. He know how to run the ball, but see, listen, like I've heard many coaches say, "Hey man, I can knock on the door down the street and find a running back." You know what I'm saying? But what I can't find down the street is somebody who understands the game enough to know that Southern ain't scoring 38 points this weekend. Okay. So that listen, hey, look, he'd have had one too many collisions back in the day running this ball. Okay,
hey, he was gonna run over you. Now it wasn't no running around. He gonna run over you.
I'm telling you, he had one too many collisions, and so now he think that Southern gonna score 38 points. All right, CTE is a real thing, guys. CTE is real. All right. So he said facts. He said, I ain't running over. I ain't running past nobody. I'm looking. Hey, listen, looking like McDowell. McDowell was like, people got in the game so used to Bingman trying to get around him. McDowell got in the game just boom, straight over him. Oh man, it's crazy, man. Yeah. So with that said, man, again, we appreciate all y'all for joining on. Again, if you got something that you want Coach to cover, you can again drop it in the comments in this video. Or again, hit me up, pvversuseverybody@gmail.com. Of course, PV_versus_everybody on Instagram and Twitter. And again, listen, about to get on TikTok too as well. So y'all make sure y'all are checking us out on all of those platforms. And with that being said, hey, listen, PV about to go 2-0 in SWAC play. About to go 2-0 in SWAC play. So we'll holler at y'all later. Atlanta is the land of the
purple and gold. Gotta get there.
Land of the purple land.
Atlanta wins. Atlanta is the land of the purple and gold. Oh, the land of the purple and gold. Better get there.